While I'm at the store, here's the items that I'm going to be picking up for today. So the first on my list is a dozen eggs. Eggs come in many different colors depending on the breed of chicken. However, there are no nutritional differences between regular brown eggs and regular white eggs. In the end, normally the only real difference is the shell color and maybe the price. I need a can of biscuits, but over $3, this was out of my budget for today. So I'm going to be getting like this store name brand of biscuits, and I'll be saving about $1.37. I don't use hot dogs often, but I have a great recipe in mind for these. Now I'm going down the freezer breakfast section, and they have these turkey sausages for a really good price. They also have like a maple flavor. I'm going to be going with the regular turkey today just because we really like these ones. And now an onion and bell pepper are both on my list, but I found this bag of frozen celery, onion, bell peppers, and parsley for a better price than one fresh bell pepper at my store, so I am getting this big bag. Since frozen spinach is blanched first, they could fit an extreme amount of spinach in that bag. As you could see, my store's enchilada sauce is over $1 for a can, which is expensive for canned goods, but recently I learned that my store now has like an off-brand enchilada sauce, which is a good value. It's only about $1. Next, I grabbed my pasta, and since brown rice is more nutrient dense and cheaper than white rice, today I'll be getting the brown. Once you make your way down the canned tomato aisle, you will see many different types of canned diced tomatoes. There's low sodium cans, perfect for like chilies, stews, and all sorts of things, but today I am picking up the Italian style diced tomatoes that is just perfect for pasta sauces. Now a can of black beans. In the produce area, I'm grabbing a bulb of garlic. This will go so far in recipes. It adds nutrients and so much immense flavor. Next, a sweet potato, then a massive bag of regular potatoes. Now that I have everything, here's a rundown of what I am getting today for only $20. First off, I have my enchilada sauce, next the sausages, the pasta, and then I have my package of hot dogs along with my package of biscuits and sweet potato. Next, a dozen eggs along with my can of black beans. Next, my can of diced tomatoes, the package of frozen peppers and onions, then my can of chicken, a bulb of garlic. Next, I have my frozen bag of mixed vegetables, brown rice, my big bag of potatoes. I'm excited about that. Then my frozen bag of chopped spinach. Let's get home and let's get started on our meals. To start us out, we are going to begin on breakfast, so I am just going to open up my package of sausages, and I'm going to cut each sausage into smaller pieces just like this, kind of like into discs. Now into this bowl, I cracked 10 eggs in there. I didn't use all 12, I just used 10. Next, add in a half a cup of water, then you're going to add in the seasonings, a teaspoon of salt, pepper, and onion powder. I do assume you guys have some oils and seasonings on hand. Now I'm going to whisk this all together to break those yolks up. After you're through with that, go ahead and add in a third a cup of frozen peppers and onions, just part of that little bag we got from the store. Then add in a third a cup of frozen spinach, and then your 2 cloves of minced garlic. After that, add in the frozen sausages and give this a stir. I have my can of biscuits right here. Cut each biscuit into 6 smaller pieces just like this. Now over to my greased 9x13 baking dish. I'm adding those biscuit pieces down. Just spread them out so they're kind of like in an even layer. After you're finished with that, pour that egg mixture over the top and spread it out just so all the sausage pieces aren't in one area. Bake this in a preheated oven to 350 degrees for about 40 minutes. Here's what it looks like out of the oven. This casserole is so filling and delicious. It's full of so much protein and it has all of those different vegetables in it. Also, since this does make so much, if you don't eat it all in the first few days, you could always freeze it and reheat it for a later date. You could reheat it in the microwave or air fryer. Now we're getting started on this potato skillet, so I have half of our bag of potatoes right here. Just peel them and dice them into smaller pieces, just like this. Over to the pan on my stove, I'm adding in a tablespoon of olive oil and a tablespoon of butter. Once the butter has melted and the oil is hot, add those potatoes right in there. Next, add in the package of hot dogs. Just slice them into half moons. I'm adding in 2 cloves of our garlic now, along with a half a cup of our frozen spinach. Then add in a half a cup of the frozen peppers and onions. For the seasonings, I'm going to add in a teaspoon of salt, pepper, onion powder, oregano, and chili powder, but you could use any seasonings that you like or have on hand. Give this a stir and let this cook covered for about 10 to 15 minutes on a lower heat until the potatoes are tender. Add in about half a cup of water if the potatoes start sticking too much, but then once the potatoes are tender, you could serve this up. This is really going to impress you, I promise. If you don't want to do this with hot dogs, you could always do this with different types of sausages, like chicken sausage, turkey sausage, or smoked sausage. Now we're making this sweet potato black bean skillet, so to get it started, I am just going to cook up all of my brown rice. I'm using this brown rice in 2 different recipes, but I am just batch cooking it all together right now. I added the rice into my Instant Pot along with 3.5 cups of water. Next, add in a tablespoon of olive oil and a dash of salt and pepper. Put the lid on top and press the rice button, and if you don't have an Instant Pot like this, you could always just boil up your rice on the stove. That will work just fine, but here's what the rice looks like once it is tender. Now I have my sweet potato right here. I am just going to peel and dice my sweet potato into smaller pieces. Over to the pan on my stove, I'm adding in a tablespoon of olive oil. Next, add that sweet potato right in there, along with a little dash of salt and pepper. Let the sweet potato cook for about 3 to 4 minutes on the stove to let that sweet potato get tender. But once the sweet potato starts to get tender, add in about 2 cloves of garlic. Let the garlic cook with the sweet potato for about 15 seconds or until it's fragrant. Next, add in 2 cups of that cooked rice along with 1 drained and rinsed can of black beans, a cup of our frozen spinach, and then for the seasonings, a teaspoon of salt, pepper, chili powder, and oregano. Give this a stir and let this cook together for about 8 to 10 minutes on medium heat. After everything is heated through, you could serve this up. You could do so many different variations of this. You can add like cheese to it. You could use different beans. You could use white rice instead of brown rice. You could use regular potatoes. You could really make it your own so easily. This is super good and super flavorful. This is also high in protein from those beans and has so many different nutrients in it. It's a great affordable meal. Veggie fried rice is one of my favorite meals to make when you don't have a lot of ingredients on hand. To the pan on my stove, I added 2 tablespoons of butter. Next, crack in the remaining 2 eggs that we didn't use for the egg casserole. Just scramble those eggs up right now and cook them through. Next, you're going to add in half of our bag of frozen mixed vegetables along with the remaining brown rice that we cooked up. Next, add in about a teaspoon of salt and pepper, then 3 tablespoons of low sodium soy sauce. I know grocery stores sell little packets of soy sauce if you don't have a big bottle for a pretty good price, but give this a stir and let the veggies become tender, and then you could serve this up. Fried rice is one of those dinners that you could get so many meals out of just because the rice is super filling. You could throw so many different things in fried rice to really make it your own. You could add chicken, you could add shrimp or different types of beef. You could add more eggs to bulk it up, but we love fried rice just because it does make so many different meals for our family. Now I'm making this veggie pasta, so to get it started, to a large pot of boiling water, I'm adding in my 16 ounces of rigatoni pasta. Just cook it according to the package instructions. If you don't have rigatoni, you could use like spaghetti as a substitute or really any pasta. While I have this boiling away, over to this pan on my stove, I'm adding in my can of Italian-style petite diced tomatoes. Next, add in the remaining half a bag of frozen mixed vegetables. I'm also adding in the remaining seasoning frozen spinach that I have in my bag. Next, add in about 2 cloves of garlic. I'm just squeezing it right into my pot. And then Macy wanted to say hi. She was wearing her swim goggles, so she was very proud of herself. But now I'm going to add in the seasoning. So I'm adding in a teaspoon of salt, pepper, Italian seasoning, and oregano. Those seasonings really work well for this. Give it a stir and let this simmer covered for about 10 minutes. Once the pasta is tender, just strain the pasta, then add it into the sauce. Give it a good stir to let it get coated. And I did have some cheese on hand that I bought a little while ago that I wanted to use up. So I'm adding in a half a cup of Italian style cheese. But if you don't have cheese on hand, you certainly don't have to add it in. It is still super good without the cheese, I promise. After you give this a good stir, you could serve it up, and here's my plate of food. This is so flavorful and delicious. This dinner made so many meals out of it. I was actually able to freeze part of it for a night when I am not able to make dinner, you know, those extra busy nights. But this was really good. You could always add ingredients to it or subtract ingredients. Now we're making this enchilada potato skillet, so I'm going to start out by peeling and dicing the other half of russet potatoes that we got from the store. I'm just cutting the potatoes into very small pieces. Now over to the pan on my stove, I have about a tablespoon of hot olive oil in there. I added the potatoes in. Next, add in the remaining bag of the onions and pepper mixture, just whatever is left in that bag. Now I'm adding in my can of chicken. I did drain my can of chicken first. Then add in a can of red enchilada sauce, or you could use green enchilada sauce. I did fill that can up with a half a cup of water. Then I added it into my pan. Next, I added in 2 cloves of garlic. Now add in either a tablespoon of taco seasoning, or you could just make your own taco seasoning if you have some seasonings on hand. It's just basically like a teaspoon of salt, pepper, chili powder, oregano, and cumin. Give this a stir and let this simmer on your stove covered for about 15 minutes, stirring it occasionally so the potatoes don't stick to the bottom of the pan. And then once the potatoes are tender, you could serve this dinner up. Also, you guys, I just created this new 7-day digital budget meal plan for you guys, and the best part is it is completely free. I will just send it over to your email. I have the link to access it. It is in the description box of this video. I just want you all to have it. It really is super helpful and useful. We just topped ours with some toppings that I had on hand. I just did a little bit of tomatoes, shredded cheese, and sour cream with some salsa, but top yours with anything you have on hand. This is so flavorful, and it's one of my new favorite